Hello, and welcome back to Biohacking with Brittany. Welcome back to, oh my gosh, the Her Stack series that I am doing about peptides and longevity and biohacking. And I am thrilled to have you listening. Oh my gosh, is this my fourth episode probably in the series already, which is really exciting. If you haven't listened to the other ones, please go ahead and do so. Basically, I started this series within the podcast because I really wanted to be able to provide solutions that were tailored specifically for women and for mothers, but that pulled on biohacks, peptides, fringe ideas that could be possible solutions for what you're looking for. So every single Her Stack episode is about one goal in particular and all the different things that you can do to improve that goal. I think the other ones I did was skin, hair, nails, and I've done energy, and I did one on specific like motherhood symptoms last week. And so there are really great ones in there to go back and listen to. With the skin one, I got a lot of actually feedback on that one. And I think I need to do a part two and really actually pull hair out of it, like make hair a completely separate one because there can be different recommendations there. And I feel like it was such a big episode that I really do want to kind of do a part two where I go deeper into certain things that I touched upon. So that is coming. Today, before I dive in, I want to give you a couple of updates. If you want to work with me one-on-one, my page is available. I will link it in the show notes. It will be on my website and you can do that. This has been probably the most asked for thing that I've had from people who want to work together in terms of creating your peptide stack for you, creating your protocol for you, with regards to what you're dealing with, especially if it has anything to do with motherhood, but really just womanhood in general. So a lot of women even reach out to me who are in perimenopause or menopause and are looking for someone to say, hey, like these are the peptides that actually can help with what you're going through. And I can do that for you. I am board certifying right now in longevity medicine and peptide therapy. I'm a nutritionist. I have been a biohacker for like 10 years in the women's health space. So I can definitely speak to a lot of what women are going through. That being said, you can find that on my website. The other update that I want to give you is my Her physical planner has arrived. If you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, check this out. So exciting. It's not for sale yet. It will be this summer. I'm going to launch it. I need to use it for a while. I need to check that it kind of meets my criteria, but it's really beautiful. And essentially, it is a 90-day peptide tracking system designed for women. So it will help you keep track of every single peptide you're taking, how much, what you're reconstituting with, and then all of your symptoms that go along with that. And it's a daily planner. It's pretty small, pretty thin, but it's perfect. And I'm so excited about this because, man, peptide management is a whole thing. I just ordered new peptides for me, my husband, and my mom. And man, did it take me a while to really go through how much do we need of everything? What do I recommend? What are the next steps, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a huge thing to help. So if you are wanting to join that and what you could do right now is you can buy the digital version. It's on my website. There have been a few hundred people who've bought that already. And everyone who buys the digital version, I will be sending you probably like an early access discount code to the physical one. So check your inbox. That will come sometime probably in the next month or so because I obviously want to support you. You bought the digital version as well. And if you want to join my community, that is open. That is where all of the women are hanging out with, that I'm hanging out with. It's got all my peptide information in there and everything that I'm creating. It's $97 a month. It has every single lesson on the individual peptides, every goal. So every goal that I talk about in this Her Stack series actually has all the information there as well in more detail. And it has my fertility suite, exactly what to do for pregnancy, for you and your partner, if you have a partner, fertility optimization, essentially, all my discount codes and everything like that. And I do bi-weekly community calls. And what that looks like is people ask me questions and I answer them live and I just give as much support as I can. So stay tuned for that. You can join it right now. It's open again. It was closed for a while, but we are open and I would absolutely love to have you join us if you want to be in my community. Okay, let's dive into this because man, there is so much to unpack here and I have to fit this in an hour. Life of having a babysitter. All right. So today we are talking about body composition and metabolic recovery for women. Now, I did not want to word this or frame this as weight loss because it is so much more than that. And I'm going to dive into why. It is more than reducing your body fat percentage. It is more than reducing or making yourself smaller or reducing the number on the scale. There's way more to it, and there's way more that is actually important than those simple metrics, essentially. And so today we're going to go through what drives women to gain weight. Why? Like, why does this happen as we get older? And we'll definitely be talking about the motherhood angle here of postpartum as well, because that's very relevant in my life. And so many of you are also in that phase as well. Then we're going to get into the 4 pillars. And when I work with women one-on-one, this is exactly what I do, right? It's just specific for them, but we do nutrition and supplements, longevity, biohacks, and peptides. And so everything that I'm going to be giving you today is my personal recommendations, things I've done myself, for my mom, for my clients, etc. Okay. And I really had to narrow this down. When I first created the script for this episode or the outline, oh my word, it was so long. And I was like, I could not sit on this mic and give these women 20 different supplements to take for body composition. That's not helpful. And they're going to end up buying none. So let's cut it. And so I tried to keep everything under 5 or less. So that is what is coming. Okay, now, welcome. I'm so excited to kind of dive into this. 4 drivers, 4 pillows, pillars, foundations first and peptides last. And so there is quite a lot I just want to talk about before we even get into the pillars. Now, like I said briefly, the goal is not weight loss. The goal is metabolic restoration. Body composition is downstream from that. It is the result. It is not the target. Restriction does not touch any of the 4 drivers that I'm about to talk about. It actually usually makes them worse. So if you cut calories, if you cut macros, if you cut food, if you do some sort of insane fasting on a stressed system, a stressed postpartum system, a stressed perimenopausal system, postmenopausal system, this is going to slow down your thyroid, spike your cortisol, and you are going to lose muscle. And this is exactly the opposite of what we want. And I'm going to dive into all of those topics right now. So this is about metabolism restoration, which then relates to body composition. And I like that we've kind of reframed weight as body composition. I think it's a much healthier way to look at it because, again, body composition to me sounds like you could gain weight, you could lose weight, you could gain muscle, you could lose muscle, right? It actually is way more all encompassing than like this one specific thing that we're trying to just like get rid of. So your metabolism is not broken. There's so much that we can do to support it, and it just needs to be restored. So the first driver that we see here, and arguably the most important, to be honest, is insulin, and specifically is insulin resistance. Now, I'm going to break these all down so that you can understand them very easily. Insulin is like the doorman. Okay, so I'm going to have some analogies today, guys. There's some complicated terms in here. I'm breaking it down. Just bear with me, okay? Insulin is like the doorman. It moves sugar out of your blood and into your cells. When you have things that disrupt this, the insulin that we have cannot actually do that job very well. So things like pregnancy or broken sleep, Essentially, your cells stop listening to that doorman. The body pumps out more and more insulin to do that same job because the cells are no longer listening as they should be. And now what this means is high insulin all day means that your body is locking it in storage mode because you physically cannot reach fat to burn it. This is why the scale can move, as in drop, but your midsection does not. Stubborn middle weight, stubborn middle fat is an insulin problem. It is not a caloric problem. So again, going through this, insulin resistance is so important. It's so important for women's health, which is a bit beyond this discussion today, but in relation to metabolic issues like PCOS, which is now PMOS, or hormonal balance in general, infertility, cycle issues, etc., etc. Like it actually has such a trickle-down effect on our sex hormones, which has a huge effect on the other issues and diseases and health concerns that we might have. So we want insulin to be healthy. We want it to be balanced. We want the cells that receive our insulin from our body to respond quick and fast to it. Otherwise, the body is locked in storage mode of that insulin because we're not responding to it. Okay. The second driver, and we actually see this talked about a lot online, is the thyroid. The thyroid now, the great thing about the thyroid is that there are actually a lot of experts out there who only focus on thyroid health. And I'm not one of those people, but there are some fantastic women doctors, health, functional medicine practitioners, even nutritionists, whoever, who focus on the thyroid. The thyroid is like this speed dial for your entire metabolism. And it can shift postpartum. It can shift through serious, stressful life stages that you're going through, life events, things that might happen to you or your family. And the postpartum shifts that actually happen from this thyroid dysregulation are often missed and routinely missed by doctors. Most panels only check TSH, and that is the brain's signal to the thyroid and not the actual working hormones. So what that means is like you're actually testing kind of the top right there, right? Like the brain signal to the thyroid, you're checking it. You're checking the TSH. Oh, is my brain effectively talking to my thyroid to turn it on and off and help with my metabolism? Oh yeah, okay, my level's great. Okay, then it's obviously not my thyroid. But the reality is you are not looking at the downstream hormones that are related to the thyroid, the working hormones. So you can feel sluggish even with that TSH being at a healthy level. And a sluggish thyroid is typically cold hands, brain fog, and a flat mood. You can get tested T4, T3, reverse T4, reverse T3, and free T3, which is your active thyroid hormone, the one that does the real work in your cells. And TSH alone misses this. If you suspect that you might have thyroid issues, I would work with a thyroid practitioner who is an expert in thyroid health. I would not, well, I mean, yeah, you could work with a general functional medicine doctor, but there are just so many experts on thyroid health that like, why would you not go to someone who specializes in it? The third driver, and man, I can relate to this one, is sleep deprivation. This is not in your head. I just want to say that, like, and this applies to every single woman listening to this. If you have a toddler who co-sleeps with you, or 3 larger children who sleep with you, or a dog who kicks you in the face in the middle of the night, or you're hot and you're having hot flashes because you're going through perimenopause or menopause, who knows? You have a lot going on at work and you can't get through the night. Sleep deprivation is playing a role on your body composition and your metabolism. It is not in your head. No sleep or low sleep creates high cortisol in the body. This is the main stress hormone. I feel like everyone kind of knows that at this point. Cortisol equals stress hormone. We want high cortisol at night or in the morning, low cortisol at night when we're going to sleep. High cortisol creates more insulin resistance, which loops back to driver number one. And we don't want high insulin resistance. Okay. We want to be able to react to the insulin that is being produced in our bodies. We don't want to resist it. So when we have high cortisol, it leads to more insulin resistance, and then it tells the body to hold on to fat, especially around your middle. And I relate to this. Like, that's actually where I store fat, is in my belly, literally like a pear-shaped type of body shape, I guess, around my belly button is exactly where I store my fat. And so if this is you and you're like, oh my gosh, that's what happens to me, how is your sleep going? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you feeling rested when you wake up consistently? Or do you have a consistent bedtime routine? We're going to kind of get into recommendations in a second here. And then with this sleep, which I will give you recommendations for, you cannot outtrain this nervous system that never ever powers down, right? So we can't necessarily throw at it all of these workouts and calorie restriction and fasting and macro counting, even if it's a high protein, right? If you're not sleeping well, it's foundational for you to be healthy and metabolically fit. Sleep matters more. So, like, what that actually means, which might be controversial, is if you have a bad night. So, like, I relate to this because I didn't sleep well last night with my kid. If you have a bad night of sleep, okay, so say you get less than 7 hours of sleep, say you get less than 5 hours of sleep, and you wake up at 7 a.m. and usually work out every single morning. Does it make sense for you to work out that day in that capacity? My personal opinion is no. Now, there's so many people who would say, no, push through, hit the gym every single day. What are you talking about? In reality, that entire day after a poor night's sleep, your cortisol is going to be dysregulated, your insulin is going to be dysregulated, your satiety is going to be dysregulated. Have you ever noticed that when you sleep poorly or less the night before, how much more food you eat the next day? That's like me to a T. If I sleep poorly, I definitely eat more calories the next day, more processed food, more carby food, because I'm like pulling on that energy and I feel like I need it. So it doesn't make sense on a stressed system, a stressed nervous system, to then go to the gym and try to lift heavy or do a Peloton class or anything that is, again, stressing that system. When we know high cortisol equals more insulin resistance, which tells your body to store fat. When you go and do that, you're raising your cortisol more for longer, which is raising more insulin resistance, which is telling your body to store more fat. It doesn't matter if you burn 300 calories in that Peloton ride. If you are in a stressed state from sleeping poorly the night before, it is worse off for you. Now, the caveat to this is you can still exercise, just change what you're doing. Do a yoga class for 30 minutes. Stretch. Go for a walk in the sunshine. Walk your dog and put a podcast on. Put my podcast on. Do something that is going to calm down the body, regulate your nervous system. You could even do a sauna session. Sauna session is something that's incredible. It is one of the only ways that we can increase our metabolism, I guess, or I don't want to say workout because it's not a workout, but it is a way that we can burn calories, burn off energy by being in a parasympathetic state, being in a calmer state. There's not a lot of things that you can do that do that. So remember that, right? Like high cortisol, high stress, high insulin resistance, storing body fat in your belly and then in your entire body. So don't add more stress. Okay. And the last one is suppressed growth hormone. Now, growth hormone is kind of everywhere, especially with peptides. We're going to get into that in a second. But growth hormone is actually really important. It is your overnight repair signal. It rebuilds muscle, it builds fat while you sleep, and it deepens deep sleep. It's incredible for that. So it does a lot. And the reality is our growth hormone drops. I think it starts to drop at, is it mid 20s? Yeah, unfortunately. And then it drops every decade after every decade after every decade. Yeah, it's probably mid 20s to early 30s, I think. And then it begins to drop. And so once that begins to drop, it's actually harder to build muscle, burn fat while you sleep, and it's harder to sleep, which is annoying because sleep is one of the drivers that I just talked about of why we struggle with metabolism and body composition. So now, like, if you actually put these pieces of the puzzle together, oh, like, I actually could have probably put this in a different order, right? Because as you age, your growth hormone is declining, which then is impacting how well you sleep. And now you're not sleeping well, so now your cortisol is higher, and then your insulin resistance is higher, and then you're storing more fat, and then you're doing it again the next night. So age impacts growth hormone. Postpartum, it gets blunted as well. There's multiple reasons for this. Is it because of prolactin when you're breastfeeding? Is it because you're in a massive state of repair and recovery? Is it because of the lack of sleep? It's probably all of those. So this all relates, right? Like it all relates to each other. There are ways you can support your growth hormone, and we're going to get into that, especially with peptides. Now, I just want to give you a quick rundown on what to test, labs to run. And I am trying to get my labs tested. It is so difficult in Canada right now. The company I usually work with is not sending to Canada. So I'm looking at Naya Health, but they are not getting back to me. And I'm looking around to try to get tested somewhere else of a full biomarker panel for my husband and myself. If you're in the States, do Function Health, do 100 Health. You guys have so many options that get shipped to your house. You prick your finger. It's usually blood, maybe sometimes saliva if you do something like a Dutch test, and you get all your biomarkers so you are not guessing in the dark. Please, please do that. Things to test: fasting insulin, free T3, IGF-1. IGF-1 is interesting. Most of the time, you actually have to go to a clinic for this one. It's a blood serum test. I have not had this done. Apparently, you actually do have to have a requisite in Canada for it, which is BS. But in the States, I think it's easier. This one's pretty easy to get done. And then you can do something like a CGM. I have never had a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor. I'm going to talk about this in a second when I talk about biohacks. But if you have access to one, definitely use it. Okay, let's dive into pillar number one: nutrition. Wow. Nutrition for body composition is, there's so many diets, there's so many things you can do. There's so many like ways of eating, when to eat, how much to eat, what type of food to eat, what your plate should look like. It's just insane. Personally, what I do is I eat majority, not all the time, majority, I try to eat paleo. Paleo is no processed food, no dairy, no grains, no sugar. I do not eat that way 100% of the time. And I eat butter. I make my own sourdough at home. Both of those things are not paleo, but I love both of those things. And I make sure that they are the best quality as possible. So the butter that I get is local, grass-fed, grass-finished, organic. And the sourdough I make is with flour that is not enriched. Imagine that. It is actually milled, like it's so fresh. It's here in Ontario. I bought it in bulk. And my current, I guess it's not a stack, my current mix of flour in my sourdough is bread flour, all-purpose flour, and spelt. Organic, not enriched. Okay, so it's very, very nutrient dense. When we're talking about nutrition, protein is so important. I literally have, if you're watching a video, I know it's in plastic. Eugh. But this is protein powder with water. I want you to be having 120 grams a day minimum. Now, this recommendation comes with a caveat. This recommendation comes with a caveat of every single recommendation for protein and nutrition is personalized. The amount of protein that I need is different than the amount of protein that you need. But as a woman, I would love for you to be in this 100 to 140 gram space. Or you can do 1 gram of protein for every 1 pound of body weight that you would like to be, 1 pound of ideal body weight. So if you want to be 130 pounds, that's the goal, 100 grams of protein a day. And aim for heavy protein in the morning, 60 grams. Why do I say this? A couple of reasons. First of all, if you hit that 60 grams in the morning, it's pretty to have more at lunch and have a lot at dinner and hit that over 100 mark versus having like fruit and avocado in the morning and then having to eat so much protein later. So try to really nail it down in the morning with eggs. Even sourdough has some protein in it for sure. Protein in your coffee, that's what I do. Protein shakes, smoothies, yogurt, protein in your yogurt, add protein powder to your yogurt, whatever you need to do, get it in there, get that 60 grams in the morning. This also helps to balance your blood sugar. So every time we add protein and fat into a meal, we are balancing our blood sugar and it is stable for longer, which means that we are not crashing at 2 p.m. and reaching for the bagel. We actually have more of a stable blood sugar throughout the day. Always try to add that protein and fat to every meal. Muscle is your metabolic engine, and protein is what builds muscle. It builds muscle and steadies blood sugar at the same time. You cannot build the engine without this raw material. So you need muscle. As a woman, and I feel like we are still so trained to not focus on muscle, but we need muscle. You need muscle on your bones. It's not going to make you bulky. You're not going to look jacked. Do you know how hard it is for a woman to look jacked and be jacked and put on that much muscle? Like, it's actually insane to actually be able to look like that. Like, it takes so much dedication, so much time. Like, everything has to be dialed for years. For any women that you see, any women bodybuilders, any women who are just like so muscular, it is very difficult. So don't worry about that. We want you to have more muscle. It helps to support your bone health. It helps to support aging. It is the most important organ in relationship to longevity that there is. Okay? Protein, muscle. Second up is leucine. So leucine is a amino acid, and the recommendation here at every single meal is about 2.5 to 3 grams. Leucine is one amino acid, and this is the protein. It is a protein building block. All amino acids are that, but this is the one that flips the muscle building switch on. I don't think a lot of people talk about leucine. I think it's because it's like not really sexy. I don't know, or like it's not cool. I don't know why, but it actually helps to build muscle. And like I said, muscle is the most important thing for longevity and for metabolism because it burns calories in order to maintain that muscle. So when you are below this threshold for leucine, you have way less of the build signal. So how do we get more leucine, right? Chicken is a great one. Whey, eggs, honestly, mostly animal proteins here. Now, you can do leucine as a supplement, like a scoop of powder. I have never done that, but part of me kind of wants to because I feel like I would like to have more muscle on my body. And so I wonder if this is actually something that I need to work on as well, even though I eat a lot of animal protein. The next thing is eat in an order that protects your blood sugar. I kind of talked about this, right? So Vegetables, protein, and fat before carbs. This is funny. I used to, before we had kids, I say kids, plural. We don't have two, we only have one. Before we had my son Callahan, I remember sometimes when I would make dinner for my husband and I would make us a salad and I would put the salad in a separate bowl for him. And at the dinner table, I would put it in front of him before anything else. And he had to finish the salad before we had the steak and the potatoes or whatever it was. And I just said, I was like, this is how you get your nutrients in. Like, this is how I know that you're going to get enough vegetables in. And and it was a very smart trick. And honestly, like I should start doing that with my son because when you're really hungry, you actually will eat the salad and you will eat all of those extra veggies that you might ignore once you've had all of the bread and the potatoes and the pasta or whatever else. Okay. So never any naked carbs, as they call them. A carb alone on an empty stomach is disastrous. It will cause a fast spike. It will store more of those carbs as energy, like it will store more of that carbs, which is energy, as fat. And therefore, we always want to have the protein and the fat added in and watch the order that you're doing it. So vegetables, protein, fat, carbs last, same food, different order, calmer glucose levels. The next thing is fiber. A lot of people talk about fiber right now. The recommendation is around 30 grams per day. This feeds your gut. So it slows the sugar from hitting your blood, keeps you full so you're not white knuckling it to your next snack. It's probably one of the most underrated tools. A lot of people, I think, use it for digestion and gut health, but it actually is really great for blood sugar management. And lastly, do not undereat. Wow. Counterintuitive, right? Especially if you are, oh my gosh, so many things here. If you are in your fertility window, like you are trying to conceive, if you're pregnant, don't get me started. Make sure you're getting enough. Postpartum, whether you're breastfeeding or not, because if you are breastfeeding, you definitely need to be eating enough to produce enough milk. Or if you're not breastfeeding, you are still recovering from birth. And recovery needs calories. You need to be getting those nutrients in to help your body heal. Okay? Do not undereat. Counterintuitive, but restriction makes all of those drivers worse. Slows down the thyroid, raises cortisol, burns muscle for fuel. So imagine you're doing this, right? Like, which I really hope you do. And a lot of this I do. And still, there's things I'm working on every single day. Imagine you're eating all this protein and you're like, all right, I'm getting the leucine. Let me add the leucine in there. Okay, I'm hitting my leucine. I'm going to add some fiber in. Okay, cool. Things are moving well. My digestion feels great. I feel like I'm hitting what I should. But then imagine you're not eating enough. And every time you eat, you're just focusing on protein only, and you're not actually getting enough calories. So even everything that you're doing to support the muscle that you're building, because you're not eating enough, you're actually burning that muscle for fuel. So please, please eat enough. How do you know how much to eat, right? I just did a DEXA scan. This is the first time in my life I've ever done a DEXA scan. I would highly recommend it. This will give you an accurate look at how many calories you can burn every single day. So my basal metabolic rate, which is the minimum that you should be burning to maintain your body, I think it was like 1350 or something. Okay. That's without any exercise or movement. So that doesn't include cleaning the house every day, walking the dog, going to the gym, any type of movement that I'm doing in my body, right? So you can easily add at 1300 as a base. Like I could actually tell you on my watch right now. Now, mind you, these watches, right, like are not fully accurate. Let's see, where is it? Okay, so this says I've burned already 1455 today, and I still have quite a bit of the day to go. And I actually didn't work out today. I only did a small walk this morning. So making sure you're eating between that 1800 to 2000 probably calories to maintain your body is important. Look into it, know your numbers, figure it out. Understand food. When you buy a piece of chicken, eggs, how much protein is in there? Where do you get leucine from? Is that a supplement that you want to buy? Do you want to start adding it to your protein shakes? Or take your protein powder that you have, look at the back, look at the breakdown of amino acids. How much leucine is in there? It's important. Okay. All right. I could talk about nutrition all day. Number two is lifestyle and biohacking. I mean, I could talk about this all day. I might have to like do a part two. Okay. Resistance training, number one. Now, this is non-negotiable. And I think I actually say this in every single Her Stack series episode. You need to get your butt in the gym. Whether it's a home gym, whether it's a gym, like a huge one, whatever. You need to be doing, or a studio or a private trainer, like whatever it is. You need to exercise at least 3 times a week, resistance training at least 3 times a week as a woman. Please do not, as much as I love yoga and walking, you need to build muscle. You need to build muscle. This is the hill that I will die on. You need to lift weights. Pilates, personally, I don't think it's going to cut it. Okay. The workouts that are only body weight, long term, I don't think are going to cut it. Sure, if you're going on vacation and you're limited for a week, fine, absolutely, whatever, that's fine. Okay. Long term, you need to be doing resistance training 3 times a week. Muscle equals the most metabolically active tissue that you have. We want to increase your metabolism. We want to speed it up. Your muscle requires so much fuel, energy, calories to keep it going, to grow it. The more muscle you have, the more you need. The more you fuel it, the more you burn. The better the body composition you have, the easier it is to maintain your weight. The easier it is to lose fat. Okay? It all relates. So, more muscle equals more fuel burned at rest all day, even when you're sleeping. I don't even can't even say any more about this. If you join my community, which is the LongHer Life community, there is a full workout program in there that's actually designed for women's longevity. Moms, my recommendation is of course, for your entire fertility cycle, you need to be lifting weights, resistance training. Pregnancy for as long as you can before it's too much on your body or you feel like you could injure yourself, right? But exercise during pregnancy is actually still very, very important. Postpartum, I started working out postpartum at week 6. And I started very slow, but I was very, very consistent and very serious about it. And I started with only body weight. I started with core, closing my abs, everything like that. Once you hit week 12, it gets easier and easier. Please lift weights over cardio. Get off the treadmill at the gym. If you're listening to this and you're on a treadmill right now, get off and go lift some weights, okay? Yeah, there's just a lot that you can do. That's better than that. The second thing with lifestyle and biohacking is walking daily and adding zone 2. So walking daily, everyone's like, oh, 7,000, 10,000 steps. 10,000 steps is the goal. Yes, and don't marry yourself to that. It's okay if you get less than that. The goal is more to keep your body moving throughout the day than it is the specific number of steps that you take. Basically, what it means is this is a low cortisol fat burn, and you're burning fat without adding any stress when you're walking. So it is effective. And that's why it's actually really great when I see a lot of older people walking. I think that's a great way to continue to rev up the metabolism and burn fat without adding stress. But it has to be in conjunction with lifting, resistance training. Then we have zone 2. Zone 2 is a pace where you can still hold a conversation. It trains the body to burn fat without spiking the cortisol that it likes to hold on to, without spiking the cortisol that holds fat on. So zone 2 Zone two is interesting. I feel like I don't do a lot of zone two. I used to do HIIT all the time. I used to like really cycle hard on my Peloton, and it feels great, but you just have to make sure that you're not overdoing it again for that high cortisol. The third recommendation under this pillar is cold and heat contrast. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, cold baths or ice baths or cold therapy is not good for women. It has its place. Cold activates brown fat, and this is the fat that burns energy to make heat. So, for example, the last 60 seconds of your shower turned cold, I think is personally fine. It activates that brown fat, and that's what we want. We get into trouble with cold when people are doing it for too long. They're doing the ice bath for 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week, regardless of where you are in your menstrual cycle or your stress levels. Everything needs to just like not be used to the maximum when we're talking about biohacking here. It's okay to do it a little bit and not often and get benefit from it. Heat is the opposite of this. So the sauna, we have a sauna and I use it probably 3 or 4 times a week. This triggers heat shock proteins and this helps cellular repair happen. And it supports overnight growth hormone. Yay, we want that, right? Cold is to burn and heat is to repair. This helps growth hormone. If you have access to a sauna, please use it. Please. It will help with your body composition. Next up, we have red light and near infrared light. What do I use for red light? I use higher dose. I have the higher dose face mask, neck mask, full body panel that I lie on when I stretch at the gym. What else do I have by them? And I have their hat too. I have the Kineon laser. It is red light therapy and lasers. And this is for much deeper wound healing and injury healing than it is for body composition. Specific wavelengths impact your mitochondria, which are these like cellular engines that we have to absorb to make more energy. The midsection, early research points to fat metabolism and skin support if you do put red light therapy there. But again, early research here. And the younger evidence than lifting, which is the real mechanism, but the downside is basically nothing. So you might as well give it a go if you have access to these. A couple of more fringe things that I just want to throw in here because this is the biohacking and longevity show. MF. I'm actually sitting on a PEMF mat right now. This is the one by Higher Dose. I love it. My discount code for Higher Dose, I think, is Brittany10, like capital Brittany and then 10. That will get you 10% off. If it's not that, it'll be linked to my show notes. PEMF is pulsed electromagnetic field. That's what it stands for. And this is gentle magnetic pulses for recovery and sleep. It loops back to cortisol and growth hormone, which we talked about being one of the two of the four drivers. It is a quantum frequency tool. It's all kind of in the same family. So with this mat that I'm sitting on, there's 4 different modes you can put it on. One is for like concentration while you work. One is for calming you down. One is for sleep. And one is for healing or something. I think it's something like that. And you pick what it is and it just helps to really help with sleep. And again, that's relation to body composition because of its loop back to cortisol, which loops back to growth hormone, when obviously that relates to sleep. Okay, grounding, putting your bare feet on the actual earth. Imagine that. Early data shows that this lowers inflammation and stress load. And lower stress, lower cortisol, lower storage of fat in your body. Vibration plates, I have been on these at different like clinics around the world. This is like a low effort nudge to muscle and lymphatic tissue on the plate for about 10 minutes. You could even do it with your toddler on your hip, which is hilarious. And your toddler would honestly probably love it because if I had one, Callahan would love it. So research is still developing in these spaces. Some of these I've done. Look into them. Yeah, it's worth it. Or if you have access to it, give it a try. Okay, next pillar we have is supplements. Now, like I said, there were 20 different supplements I had on my first list. And I was like, this is insane. I cannot give 20 different supplement recommendations. Okay. First one is creatine. Creatine monohydrate. This has this is the most evidence-backed supplement that we have. Actually, did you know that? There's so much research on creatine, it's insane. It gives muscle quick access energy, which means that you can train harder and you can hold more muscle, which means your engine is firing better. It is one of the few here that most women can take while nursing. If you take one thing, take this, arguably. When I look back on my postpartum journey, I wish I was on creatine daily. Yeah, absolutely. I should have been on creatine every single day in pregnancy and postpartum. This actually, and I talked about this in the mental health episode that I did for maternal mental health. Creatine also does impact mental health and energy. And so there are so many benefits from it. You might as well just take it every single day. And especially because it gives your muscles quick access to energy. Moms, women in general, need energy. You know, energy is the number one complaint women come to me for to work together or in my DMs. The number one thing. It's not beauty, it's not skin, it's not longevity, it's not like, how do I lose 10 pounds? It's literally, hey, I need more energy. How do I do that? That's why my first episode on the Her Tech series was on energy. Go listen to it. There's so many good tips in there. It's incredible. Okay. Second supplement is magnesium glycinate. I had some last night. We always have a rotating different brand for this. Oh, I should say for creatine monohydrate, the one I'm taking right now is by Mind Body Green. I actually don't think I have a discount code with them. I should get one. I can check on that. I also just got one from, I also got creatine from Naked. It's a company called Naked Creatine. It's a very clean company. And then magnesium glycinate, I have the one from WeNatal right now, which I have a discount code for. And I think the code is Biohacking Brittany. I'll check on that. It'll be in the show notes. But I also like the magnesium stack from Bioptimizers. Now, this one has 7 different, I should show you the accurate fingers here, 7 different magnesium types in it. And I have taken the magnesium from Bioptimizers on and off for probably like, I don't know, 4 years maybe now, something crazy like that. I have it in my car. I have it beside my bed. I have it in my pantry, literally everywhere. I give it to everybody I know because it's really, really great. So if you don't own a magnesium supplement, what are you doing? This is one of the basic supplements you should always have on hand for energy, for headaches, for fatigue, for sleep, for stress, and for body composition. So magnesium glycinate, now it's required as a cofactor for insulin to work, which is very interesting, right? So insulin literally cannot do its job without magnesium glycinate. It lowers cortisol, it deepens sleep. That's 3 of the 4 drivers we talked about in one mineral. That's pretty crazy, eh? Magnesium is involved in over 300 processes in the body, so this checks out. Glycinate, right? There's all these different forms of magnesium, is the calm, well-absorbed form. You can take this pregnant, breastfeeding, postpartum, perimenopause. It actually doesn't matter at all. This is safe no matter what, okay? Bioptimizer's Magnesium Breakthrough is my go-to. Like I said, I also have the WeNatal one right now. Use my discount codes, Biohacking Brittany, please save because it'll help. The next one is myo-inositol. That's how I've always said it. Myo-inositol. Now, this is one of the most studied metabolic tools in women specifically, which is actually very rare in the male-dominated research field that we are in. It improves insulin signaling directly. It helps cells hear the doorman again, right? We talked about insulin being the doorman. It helps those cells be like, oh, the doorman is ringing. Okay, time to respond. If your central fat is an insulin story, and a lot of women it is, especially postpartum, or if you have other health conditions like PCOS, endometriosis, infertility, PMDD, all of these things, this can help. When I went through my whole PCOS scare about 7 years ago now, this was one of the supplements that I first was told to take, and I tried it out. It's been around for a while. There's quite a lot of evidence on it. The third one is omega-3s, and this is the EPA and DHA from fish oil. Now, this is interesting because this does two different jobs. It improves insulin sensitivity and it lowers the low-grade inflammation that tells the body to store fat. So it improves insulin sensitivity. We want to be sensitive to insulin. We want to be sensitive to insulin. We want to hear the doorman and be like, oh, he's here right away. We want that. We don't want insulin resistance. And it lowers the low-grade inflammation that tells the body to store fat. So many of us are inflamed. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, how do I know if I'm inflamed? Go get tested. Get your HSCRP tested. You can do, there's a bunch of different biomarkers that you can do to look at inflammation. When you go to any of the at-home tests that I recommended earlier, like Function, Cyfox, 100 Health, they will often have a full inflammation panel that you can do that has like a bunch of different metrics on there. I actually should do a goal of reducing inflammation. Although inflammation is more of a root cause, so it's a little bit of it's not really like a body composition. And the last one is berberine. Now, berberine is a heavy hitter for the insulin driver, and we see this a lot in any supplements that are again related to metabolic disorders like PCOS, PMOS. It is a heavy hitter for that insulin driver. It activates AMPK, and that is your cell's low fuel sensor. When that sensor switches on, it tells the body to stop storing and start burning what it already has. And that is why people often call it nature's metformin. The catch here is that it's not really recommended for breastfeeding or pregnancy, if that's what you're going through right now. So just be mindful of that. Bioptimizers does have one. It's called Bioptimizers Berberine Breakthrough. It's great. I've had it before. If this is talking to you and you're relating to this, or you are dealing with any of the metabolic issues that I've been saying, I would definitely try that. So the average woman, not that anyone is average, but for supplements, for body composition and metabolism, you need in your pantry protein powder. Now, like what type of protein powder is a whole question. Depends on what type of protein that you're willing to eat. If you are eating animals, you can do whey, make sure it's grass-fed, grass-finished. And that is a very, very well-balanced amino acid profile that you will be getting a lot of, and it's great if you tolerate whey. I don't tolerate whey very well, so I don't do whey protein. And I know this because I have been tested, and even genetically, I have had my DNA looked at, and lactose, I don't do well with. But I've also, what did I have? A food sensitivity test done that showed me whey, casein, and lactose are 3 dairy proteins that I struggle to digest. So whey protein doesn't make sense for me. That's why I do vegetarian protein powder, and I switch up the ones that I do. Unfortunately, vegetarian protein powders will never have a robust, complete amino acid profile as well as any type of animal protein powder. Right now, I'm taking, what am I taking? I'm taking the Naked Protein Vanilla Shake, which is excellent. Really great with coffee and like walnut milk, which is like what I've been drinking today. And I also have the Vegas Sport Vanilla Protein as well. And that one is really good, but the scoops are so big to get enough protein powder. So it's a lot. And then it sinks to the bottom, right? So it's like, So in your pantry, pick your protein powder, add in creatine every single day, no matter what, magnesium glycinate, and arguably leucine, an extra amino acid on top of that. You could also do collagen, peptides, but with body composition, let's not go there. That's what I would say. Add in omega-3. Honestly, yeah, I mean, omega-3 is really important even for brain health and for hormone health. And then add in myo-inositol and berberine if you are struggling with a metabolic disorder, a hormonal disorder, because both of those will help with that. Okay, that was supplements. Woo! Okay, last but not least is the peptide stack. Woohoo! Now, I always do the peptides last because I am not going to be the person who says, hey, take all these peptides and eat like shit and don't move your body and have a really unhealthy lifestyle, but take all these little peptides and you're going to be great. Like, no, you need to dial in your foundations, add in peptides as the advanced layer on top. If that's you, listen up. This is what you got to do. Okay. What is a peptide? Peptide is a chain of amino acids, typically very small. A short chain of amino acids. A tiny, tiny protein. It's a short little messenger, and that's it. Our body has all of the peptides in them at various different levels as we age. A lot of them go down. After you're a baby, they go down and down and down, and you make less of them, and you can obviously now take them in a much easier way. So peptides for metabolism and body composition. The first one that I'm going to recommend is a. Now, I'm actually taking this right now, which is very interesting. This is a growth hormone fragment. What the heck does that mean? All right. So, growth hormone is a big protein. One of its jobs, as we've talked about kind of throughout this episode, is to burn fat. It does a lot of other things, right? It helps with sleep. It helps with building muscle. It helps you grow literally when you're younger, but it also helps you burn fat. But it actually also raises blood sugar and grows tissue. So scientists snipped off just the tail end, the exact piece that they had proven that burns fat, and they got rid of the rest. And that snip is called AOD 9604. It is a fragment. It is a piece of the entire growth hormone protein. Okay? That should make sense to you. It's a tiny little piece of it. So the fat burning signal of growth hormone, you get none of the blood sugar baggage. And I'm going to get into GLP-1s and all of that in a second. It does not move IGF-1. So you can actually start this right away. It's a very gentle entry point, and you can start here. So let me back up for a second. Growth hormone. What do we know about growth hormone? Growth hormone actually doesn't start where you think it starts. So the brain releases something called growth hormone releasing hormone, which is a stupid name, whoever came up with that, GHRH. And then it goes down to the pituitary gland. And it says, hey, pituitary gland, release growth hormone. The pituitary gland then talks to the liver and says, you need to make and metabolize and do all the things and increase our growth hormone. Then the liver does, and the liver spits out IGF-1. We can get tested in a lab IGF-1 levels. So you could actually deduce, hey, this is how much growth hormone is in my body at this age. What is optimal? How do I add up? We do not test growth hormone because growth hormone works in pulses, okay? And it is actually more overnight. So the pulsatility of growth hormone makes it really hard to test because how do you know when you're pulsing high or low without testing multiple times a day and getting a range, which seems ridiculous and like a waste of time and money and energy. Instead, we just take it down, stream more, and we test for IGF-1. So that should help you understand when we talk about growth hormone, exactly what's happening there, okay? So this little fragment, this AOD 9604, it does not change IGF-1 levels. Now, why does that matter? That matters because if you are under the age of 35, roughly, or you are postpartum, you can take this peptide without worrying about the impact on your entire hormonal cascade and impacting growth hormone, okay? Because when you are under 35 roughly, like you actually don't want to increase that growth hormone. Like you don't want to mess around with something that is likely in a healthy range. Now, if you're under 35, you test your IGF-1 and your IGF-1 is suboptimal, that's different. But assuming that you are younger and you do not have your IGF-1 tested, this makes sense for you to take AOD because you're not going to be touching growth hormone. Or again, you can take it postpartum so that you're not messing up the delicate hormonal balance that happens when your body is healing in relation to prolactin if you're breastfeeding, estrogen, progesterone, LH, FSH, everything else that is all intricately connected. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So that is why I like AOD 9604. That is why I am currently personally taking it. I'm 32. I have not had my IGF-1 levels tested. So I am not going to mess around with taking something more significant or anything that could change those GH levels without data. Like it just seems silly. And this is fat burning, right? What we see typically with AOD 9604 is that a lot of people will notice a reduction in belly fat. And I actually noticed this. I weighed myself a couple days ago. And again, it's not about moving that number, right? But I was like, oh, I actually have lost weight, which is surprising. And so this is what I'm taking and I would recommend. I don't remember how much I'm taking. I would have to pull out my stack, but I know I'm on the lowest dosage. And I think it's like, oh, is it 300 micrograms? It's a small amount. All of the dosage recommendations, by the way, for women, whether you are cycling, postpartum, perimenopause, or menopause, is in my community. Like I literally give you exact dosages, where to start, how to titrate up, everything like that. Okay. The next one is MOTS-c. I have also taken MOTS-c. I did a full MOTS-c protocol in my stack for 12 weeks. And this is the mitochondrial peptide. This is a great peptide for exactly what I was saying. Postpartum, if you are younger and you are wanting to take a peptide for body composition, this is a great one for that. Your mitochondria, the cellular engines that we have, make energy and they make their own tiny signal, which is MOTS-c. It tells the body to handle sugar better and burn fat for fuel. It's almost the same message a workout sends, but it's through, like specifically through this mitochondrial way. People say it's like exercise in a molecule. It's your layer for the insulin driver that we talked about. What do I think about MOTS-c? I think MOTS-c is incredible. I think a lot of us have mitochondrial dysfunction and could use mitochondrial support. I think if you're going to do peptides, you should arguably do MOTS-c sometime in your stack within a year and see how it impacts your energy. The biggest thing with MOTS-c is, yes, it helps with metabolism because it helps your body to handle sugar better and burn fat for fuel. But the main thing that MOTS-c is used for is energy because it helps the mitochondria produce more energy. And we have so many mitochondria in our body. The most mitochondria dense organs are the brain, the heart, and the ovaries. The ovaries have in the eggs, in the cells in the eggs is 100,000 mitochondria per cell. Incredible. Okay. Imagine you're helping those mitochondria produce more energy. If you take MOTS-c and you take a decent amount, say you're doing 2 mgs twice a week and you're not noticing any difference in your metabolism or your energy, it could mean that your mitochondria is actually very optimized and very healthy and you don't need it. My recommendation with MOTS-c is if, like I said, if you're at that level of 2 milligrams twice a week, and then you go up to the 5 milligrams twice a week, which is kind of the maximum, and you're not noticing a difference within a month, within 6 weeks, I would stop taking MOTS-c. You likely don't need it. I think it's very rare for, I have never ever heard of, I've never worked with anybody, I've never seen anyone in my community who has not noticed a difference with MOTS-c. It does burn. People do get reactions to it on their skin. So just be mindful that that could be something that you experience. Okay? There's ways to do that. There's ways to dilute that. There's ways to mitigate that reaction. You can dilute it with more bacteriostatic water. You can have it come to room temperature instead of being cold. You can rotate your injection site. So that's what I used to do. I would do inside of one thigh, inside of the other thigh, and then belly. On and on and on. You can mix it with other peptides in the same vial. People are up in arms about that, if that works or not. I do that. Take it as you will. Okay. The third one is 5-amino-1-MQ. Now, I have not tried this peptide, in full disclosure, in full honesty here. Okay. This is the brake release. Fat cells have a switch, an enzyme that they flip to slow metabolism and hold on to fat. 5-amino-1-MQ blocks that switch. So fat cells go from hoarding to burning. It also supports NAD+, and this is what I talked about in that energy episode, which is the energy molecule that drops after pregnancy and actually declines as you get older as well. NAD is a huge longevity molecule that everyone talks about, okay? So it is a brake release. It is a block. You can pair it with MOTS-c for the central mid-region fat that people do. And this has the two mechanisms. One is working at the engine, which would be the MOTS-c working at the mitochondria. And then one is working at the fat cell, which is the 5-amino-1-MQ, being like, hey, we are blocking this switch that flips onto the slow metabolism and holding onto fat. I have not tried this. Mostly I have not tried it because I'm doing AOD 9604 right now and I just don't feel like I need it. The next one is Sermorelin. So this is a secretagogue. Now, what the heck is a secretagogue? This is why with peptides, it feels like when you listen to a podcast episode about peptides or someone on YouTube or whatever, TikTok, and they talk so quickly, it feels like people are talking a different language because there's words in here that the average person does not understand. And I know this because I was there. And I would hear like triple agonist and secretagogue. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? Can you please stop and define what you're saying? So Ellen is a secretagogue, and a secretagogue tells your body to make and release more of its own growth hormone. A secretagogue is something that you take and it says, make more. It tells your body to make more, release more of your own growth hormone. It is not injecting growth hormone itself. It is not blocking something. It is not changing the way that something is in the body. Like instead of it going into key A, it's going into whole B. It's not doing any of that. It is just saying, hey, body, I want you to make more growth hormone. That's what it does. That is Sermorelin. Okay. It triggers, easiest way to put it. Now, a nudge, this is a nudge to your own factory. You are not importing the product, however you want to look at this. It is a lookalike of the brain's natural release growth hormone signal. It is gentle and it works with your rhythm, which is really nice. You can take this before sleep when you naturally release growth hormone. Now, let's actually be very clear here. My recommendation is if you are over 40, by all means, try this. This is a great entryway to increase the entire growth hormone cascade for people who are new to peptides. It's great for women who are kind of like under 40, but honestly, again, I would get your IGF-1 tested, see what your levels are at, and then if you need to increase it, then you can add these things in. Or if you're over 40 or over, I don't even know, 35. It depends how healthy you are, right? Like everyone is so different. You could try this. It restores muscle and it is a overnight, it burns fat overnight and helps with deep sleep as well. The last one, and I'm going to get into all the GLPs in a second. So this is aside from GLP-1s, okay? Because I obviously have to talk about them. The last one is CJC-1295 and Ipamorelin or Tesamorelin. So is the last one actually three peptides? Yes. Okay. This is the same idea as Sermorelin, but stronger. So CJC and Ipamorelin, I had my mom on this for a while. These are two nudge the factory signals stacked for a bigger effect. Both of them are helping with this growth hormone release. Tesamorelin, a little different, and this is the new one I actually ordered for my mom, is the cousin studied for visceral fat. This is the growth hormone related peptide that is specifically studied for fat on your belly, visceral fat, the deep belly fat around your organs. And that is not the pinchable fat that you can touch right now. That is in between the organs. That is extremely important because it is actually linked to all cardiovascular health issues and diseases and every single, I mean, as far as I know, longevity biomarker and things that help you age faster. Like it is so important that your visceral fat percentage is low. And this helps to reduce that. Okay. This is all in the same growth hormone family. And so if you are going to try any of these three, CJC, IPA, or TESA, my recommendation is please to get your IGF-1 levels tested if you can, or if you're old enough, like, and you're postmenopausal, then honestly, you're probably fine with going with these. So right now, my mom is, for example, she's finishing her CJC 1295 and IPA, and then she's going on to her Tesamorelin. I'm not, we're not doing all of them at the same time. She's gonna finish her bottles and then start Tessa. There's no need to pause in between there. You can keep going. Yeah, she's not on high enough doses for anything like that. Okay. So the order AOD first, then MOTS-c, then 5-amino 1-MQ for insulin central fat, and then growth hormone restoration later if you are older and you are not dealing with anything like fertility, breastfeeding, early postpartum. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the last part is about GLP-1s. Now, if you're watching the video, I had to stop the video because my son has joined me and he's not feeling well. And also I don't put his face onto the internet. So bear with me. He also has a viral rash right now. So I'm just in mama mode literally right now. Okay. The last part is the GLP-1 question, right? What are GLPs and what does that all mean, et cetera, et cetera. So first of all, a agonist, which you might hear a lot, is a key that fits a lock in your body and turns it on. That's literally all that means. So when you hear someone say like triple agonist, just think of like a key. It's just a key that fits into a lock and it turns your body on. GLP-1 is a protein, the P stands for protein, and it is a key that turns your body on to the signal of I'm full. I can handle this sugar. Okay? So it's one key that turns on your I'm full and handle this sugar switches. It does both. So semaglutide and tirzepatide are prescription drugs that are built on this single key. Tirzepatide turns two locks, which is the GLP-1 lock and the GIP lock. Whereas semaglutide is just one, which is the GLP-1 lock. And that's the one that people usually get a lot of health reactions to or side effects. Retatrutide is the triple agonist, right? That's what people are nicknaming it GLP-3. It's because it does three things. It is one key. Yeah, I know that's a tractor. Sorry, everybody. It's a key that flips a switch. Okay, so sounds technical, but it's simple. Triple equals three, and an agonist equals a key that flips a switch. So retatrutide is one molecule that turns on three metabolic switches at once. It turns on GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon, which is like this new piece that has been added. This is the biggest weight loss number so far. Oh, that's Mama's mic. Leave that for a second. Compared to semaglutide and tirzepatide. Where did I put this one? It's not yet approved by the FDA, but I think they're in phase 2 clinical trials. But you can obviously get it on the gray market, just like most of these peptides. Yeah. So the catch, though, for these in relation to body composition and metabolism is that they shrink appetite. They do not restore metabolism. And so when we look at, say, something like MOTS-c, which is a mitochondrial peptide, it actually helps to increase metabolism, right? And that is more important and helps restore it. These ones just shrink appetite. A large share of the weight loss can be muscle. That is true. And you see people talking about that online. That is true. But this is the opposite of what I want you to build today. We want you to build that muscle. Okay. I want you to build a lot of muscle so that you are healthy for the long term. For a mom who's rebuilding or a woman who's rebuilding, losing muscle means lowering your metabolic rate over time and sets up the regain. So you have to be really careful here. And then the weight often comes back fast as fat if you stop taking these GLP-1s. Okay. So the question is where do these fit? The real the real insulin resistance, the real insulin resistance and that like higher starting point with guardrails only if you still do everything else in this episode. So, if you are taking all the supplements that I recommended, focusing on lifting heavy, adding in zone 2, walking, doing something like sauna, cold therapy, taking the extra supplements, and doing some of the other peptides, then you can add these in because they do help. They can help in a way. But the other thing that you can also do here, and this is very controversial, is like the microdosing of them. Now, I want to be really honest with you. Right now, my husband and I are trying to microdose retatrutide, and and it's been interesting to see this happen. Now, some people say microdosing doesn't have much of an effect. And it depends how much you are microdosing. So we're doing a very small amount, and I think we're doing 500 micrograms a week right now. Yeah, honey. So there is some metabolic effect here, and this is great because you can get it and you can get the benefit without necessarily impacting the scale too much and without impacting your muscle, which matters a lot. So postpartum, post weaning, this can be really great for you if this is something that you want to look at. Just to be clear, like Retta is not something that I would ever do more than that, especially because I'm not looking for drastic body composition changes or weight loss. So for me, knowing that, like it just doesn't make sense. And that's why I like some of the other peptides because if you are looking to, if we want to be specific, like lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds, you can get there with something like MOTS-c or AOD 9604, and you don't need to do something so that can impact your health so significantly, like retatrutide, semaglutide, or any of those. Walk. Walk. You want to go have a walk with Dad after dinner? Yeah, okay. The other thing that I worry about these is like because they're reducing your appetite, like that would impact how much protein you're having. And it would also impact how many minerals you're having, right? So how many vitamins, your nutrients, and everything like that. So we want to be really careful that we are still eating enough so that we're getting the nutrients our body needs for adequate hormone production, balancing, menopause, fertility, pregnancy, everything like that. So that's why I don't like it as well, because How are you going to get all of the calories and all the nutrients in that you need if you're not eating that much because you're simply not hungry? So that's definitely one of the parts that I don't think anybody would talks about. Okay, that's kind of like my glossy way to go, to look at it with a toddler in my arm right now who's sick. Oh, buddy. I know. Okay, we're wrapping up. Okay. Do you want to say something on the mic? Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. If there's something that you have questions about that I glazed over too fast, let me know. I would love to dive deeper. You can send me a message on Instagram at biohackingbrittany. You can email me info@biohack and I will be able to help you. I didn't get into bioregulators today, and that's probably something I will add in if I do a part two. But just know that there's so much you can no, there's so much you can do for body composition, and I'm happy to help you and support you in any way that you can. Remember that the four drivers are insulin, thyroid, sleep, and growth hormone. The four pillars are nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, and peptides. And the foundations matter more than any peptides you would ever take. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I'll put the link in my show notes. Or if you want to get my peptide 90-day planner right now, my digital one, you can do so as well. Okay, thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you soon for another one. Okay, do you want to say goodbye on the mic? Can you say bye-bye? You say bye. You have to say it out loud. He's waving, just so you know. You have to say bye-bye. Can you say bye? Can you say no more monkeys? No more monkeys. You say no more monkeys? No more What's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? Pink. Wow. What's Mama's favorite color? What's Mama's favorite color? Green. Okay, bye everyone. Catch you soon for another episode.